We learn so much. We build relationships. We understand at a different level. It's a lack of the time, I think, in coordinating to do that. So the question becomes like, where is the priority? Like in your mind, if trust was something we absolutely had to build and really truly understanding the customer was the fuel to light that trust on fire, where do you see kind of in the priorities of what we all need to do as B2B organizations, dedicating ourselves to truly understanding the voice of the customer? I'll put you on the spot if you don't mind. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1, it's not important at all, Steve. 10, it's vital to the long-term growth of our business. Truly understanding that customer and implementing and acting on it.
It's got to be near a 10, hasn't it? I mean, to be a successful business, which, the studies show that the successful businesses prioritize listening to the customer, right? But it's got to be near a 10. I mean, I do take your point as to, kind of maybe the normal everyday kind of gets in the way sometimes. I think you talked about the one-on-one conversations that one of your previous guests talked about. I think they are very helpful. A lot of great feedback we get is when we're on the road and we're able to visit customers. Our business, we have customers in all four corners of the world. So we can't do it literally the same customer every week. But when we do, you take them out for a drink, it's amazing what you'll learn. It really is. And that's the kind of gold dust that you can pick up. There are a lot of other tools you can use, qualitative, quantitative sort of stuff to gather that information. But you have to work out what's best for your business, for your industry, and for your setup and resources as well. I mean, I remember relatively early on in my career, I was working for a company with multiple distinct entities, and they're all operating under one brand. And we could see it was getting to that point where they're just, it wasn't optimal. And rather than kind of stick my finger up in the air and make a decision, I thought, I wouldn't do this properly. I don't want to make a decision for a business with an annual turnover of, hundreds of millions of dollars. I wanted to get the input from the customer. I wanted to listen to the voice of the customer. So we conducted a brand audit about 4 or 5 months later, many focus groups, many one-to-one interviews, surveys of thousands and thousands of customers, had a lot of information, did a lot of analysis. I managed to create a report mapping how we needed to take the business forward and the changes we needed to make. I went and took that to the owner of the business. He read it. I'm there outside his office. He calls me back in after an hour. He says, "This is the most important document we've ever had." It's gold dust. It was simply just listening to the voice of the customer. There was no real magic in it, but it was the voice of the customer, which, we're able to take their input and basically translate that into a strategy, a recommendation on how to take the business forward. So that was great in that respect. The business went on to grow exponentially. So what's the problem? I can't help but look back on that time, on that whole exercise with mixed feelings. Yes, we got a good result, but the time and effort taken to get there just seemed a little excessive. Many of the findings in my report, they were the same as my initial gut feelings. And I'd consumed excessive time and resources to prove them. And I reflect now thinking, could there be a faster way, a more efficient way to get that information and not take myself and my team to breaking point? Nowadays, I try to be a lot more focused. And what I mean by that is I try and be a bit more proactive. It's not about, it's that time again, let's go out and hear what the customer's saying. I try and build systems, put systems in place for all the touch points, for all our teams, where we can capture that feedback, the key feedback, what the customer's saying, and have that, a strong and continuous flow of that information coming back on a regular basis. So that will allow us to have a clear picture. And then when something comes up we're not too sure about, when there is a major unknown, that's when we can go out and do a deep dive, but focus around that, the major unknowns. I think I can understand having my mistake or done it the hard way early on in my career. I can understand why people perhaps are hesitant to kind of conduct throw everything at this voice of the customer. But the stats are there. The research shows that without it, you're not helping yourself. So it is critical, the voice of the customer. However, I would say there is something for the old, Henry Ford approach or Steve Jobs approach, and trusting your gut. Yes, get those unknowns, those key unknowns verified, but trust your gut. And I guess also don't be blinded by one or two noisy voices. You always get one or two noisy customers who will shout and be very vocal about what's wrong. But if they're not representative of your entire customer base or even a segment of your customer base, then, how far are you going to go to satisfy them?